the good old days of tomorrow are happening right now. Now, I believe that for as far as human history goes, there's been a few concepts, a few ideas, a few traits that we've always valued and seen as good to have and to develop. And one of those, at the core of it, is gratitude for how cheesy it has became nowadays and how of an overplayed thing it is. There's a reason why it stood sort of the test of time of traits that are desirable and that we should strive for and that we in a lot of ways will improve our lives if we adopt it. Now, unfortunately, again, nowadays I believe it becomes very associated with the sort of like guru that is targeting 50-year-old women and using some weird sort of concepts to essentially get to the core of it, to say that we should be more appreciative of the moment, in a lot of ways to wish for what we already have. Now, the main problem with that I see nowadays, especially for ambitious people, is that when you hear this, besides the sort of cringe you feel and the sort of like, yeah, I know that already type of thinking, is that there's this idea that if I become more grateful, if I stop to smell the roses more often, if I stop to give thanks for what I have, that I will become less ambitious and that the money that I'm after, and the career and the women and the fitness, whatever, I will not want those things as much anymore and I'll become complacent. And in a lot of ways, I'll go back to becoming the same person that I do not want to become. And I will stagnate in my life. There is that fear. And I believe it is quite a justifiable fear, because if you do it right, to be grateful, to practice gratitude, to again be fine with how things are right now, in a lot of ways, if you do it correctly, you will be less ambitious. And I think this is the part that people don't really touch on, or they skirt around, or they say it's not, but of course you will. Because I think in a lot of ways, when you are climbing these mountains, after these things, in a lot of ways, you are after something that you know doesn't exist. You are after and chasing something that in a lot of ways you're not allowing yourself to stop because you don't want to face the truth. And the truth is that, and you will know it if you have been there, is that there's no mountain high enough, no goal so extravagant, so extraordinary, no amount of possessions of money, of anything that will ever be enough. It will be for a week or two, maybe. You'll be distracted, you'll be proud of yourself, to be all those things, but after it wears out and you're used to it, you are not satisfied. And there's never going to be a point, no matter the amount of whatever you're after, money, fame, cars, recognition, uh, whatever it may be, that will be enough. And you know this. We all know, if you've ever aimed at something and achieved it, you know it. Deep down, you know it. You may try to trick yourself and say that, oh, the goal just wasn't big enough. I just don't have I just don't have enough money yet, or enough possessions, or enough stability, or whatever. But we know it's not true. And if you sit down and you imagine how it would be to get to that point, you know it's not true. And you know you'll always want more. And you know that nothing of this finite world could ever fill the infinite desire inside. Because how could it? And when you face the gratitude side of things, and you sit down and you appreciate what you have this moment, and you in a lot of ways wish for what you already have, you have to look at the things that you're after and see them for what they are. And that is scary, because I do believe if you do that correctly, you will be less ambitious. You will want things less. You will not be here sacrificing hours of sleep to get more money, because why would you? How ridiculous is that? Or you would not be, I don't know, skipping a day of weekend to be with your partner or your friends, to really enjoy, to have a nice lunch, whatever, to work more, to get more money, because why would you? Because when you look back, are you really thinking about, man, I'm really grateful for the time I had 100K in my account. Those were really the days. No, they weren't. If you look back at the good old days, the times that perhaps now, and if not now when you're older, you're going to be saying, or you say to yourself, what I wouldn't give to just spend one day like that, just to take me back to that moment one time, perhaps I'd give it all. And the more time passes, the more that becomes true. But in that moment, when those things were happening, when you had that great lunch with your friends, or this great vacation with your girlfriend, or whatever happened, even a lot of times for the struggle moments that now you look back and you're like, man, those were the days, huh? When those days were happening, you were not thinking that. You were not grateful for them. In a lot of ways, you were just a passenger as time passes by and you're in your mind desperately wanting to get to another point that you didn't recognize that the point you were at was the point to be. And that is the whole point of this, is that we have to stop sometimes and just look at what we're doing in these pursuits. And I'm going to use it again because it's so common, of money, of career, of status, of some point in the future when we think we'll be safe and respected and life will be complete. We have to look at it and recognize that we won't be complete. It is never complete. No matter how much money you have, what if then you get some autoimmune disease? Or if in the opposite side too, what if everything goes wrong and then something happens and it all goes right again? We have to look at things for what they are. And we have to recognize that no matter how cringe of a concept it can be, of just like, yeah, you got to stop and smell the roses every so often and appreciate what you have, it is true. Because if you don't do that, you are going to be essentially waste the only resource that we have that is truly finite and that we can never get more of. That is time, of course. Here, if we never are in the moment, no matter how bad or good that moment is, if we never dare to really enjoy it, to wish for what is happening, essentially, we are gonna sacrifice all our time, essentially, because we're always gonna be wishing we were at a different time with different things. And then those times come and arrive, and then we look back and we're like, oh, I wish I could go back to those times. And then we're always shifting from one side to the other in our thoughts and never really being in the only time that is ours. That is the now. Because the past has passed, the future, we don't know what's going to happen, and it is in the future, but we have the now. We have to recognize that. And we have to be able to also recognize that perhaps, not perhaps not, but perhaps we are being too ambitious in certain things. Perhaps we're not being in certain other things. But we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to sit down and we have to really, as we appreciate the moment, whatever that moment is, it could be, and as you work, as you are with your friends, as you have a nice lunch, as you work out, and we're really in those moments, because I believe if we are, we recognize that they are enough. And then if we recognize they are enough, we have to shift our whole perspective, because then we can still be after the things we're after, but it can be because we think they're going to fulfill us and they're going to make life feel right, because they will never, ever. And when we're faced with that, and when that clicks in our minds, because it will click in our minds, in your mind, but it can either be because you actually take the time and sit with these ideas, or it can be when you have a midlife crisis and you realize that your job and all these things don't matter, and then you buy a sports car and you go and you fuck your life up, quote unquote. But we have to get to it. We have to get beyond just getting money for the sake of money, getting views for the sake of views, and all of these, because there's infinite people online telling you like, oh yeah, you're going to be grateful, but then you're not going to be as rich as me. You're not going to have the Lamborghini. And you have to think about, but why do I even want these things? What is even the purpose of having these things? Why do I want a Lamborghini if I don't even like cars that much? Why do I want a mansion if I live alone? We have to think about these things. And we have to go beyond what is being told to us, what is being preached, what is being sold. We have to be honest with ourselves. Because if we don't, we're going to waste all the time that we have. And at the end of the day, time is all we have.